Have you ever decided to make a major change in your life, like maybe getting a new job or getting into a new relationship or moving to a new city or something really big that was important to you, but found yourself resisting? Even though you knew it would change your life and hopefully change it for the better, you still resisted doing it. If that's you, you're not alone. Many people resist this, and there are a couple of reasons why. And what I want to do is help you understand why we resist change in the first place and how you can overcome it. My name is Phil Ciccio, and in this video here, I'm going to share with you why it's so important to understand the resistance to change so that you can overcome it, push through, and begin to live the life that you really deserve. Most people aren't living the life that they deserve because of this resistance to change. So what happens when you decide that you want to do something, make a radical change in your life? Maybe get into a better relationship, maybe, change your physical body, like become more fit. Maybe it's getting a new job or moving to a new city or moving to a new country, right? These major changes that tend to cause us to have anxiety and we resist. What is happening is there's so much uncertainty with change, and our brain doesn't like uncertainty, right? So what happens is, I call this the uncertainty gap, where you're here and you want to go there, wherever there is. And you can see that it's a good place to go, but you don't know how you're going to get there. And you obviously don't know how it's going to work out. So there's all this uncertainty. And the universe does not like uncertainty because the universe doesn't like empty spaces, right? And there's an empty space between where you are and where you're going to go. And your brain doesn't like an empty space either. So what it wants to do is fill in that empty space with a story of how this is all going to play out. Now think about this. For many people, not all people, but for many people, that story is probably not a good one. It's a story of failure. It's a story of hurt and pain and suffering. It's a story of, why did I do this? I just ruined my life, right? It's a really bad story. Even though the story is not true, right? It's still your story. And because it's a story, the brain doesn't know it's not true because the brain can't differentiate between what's real and what's imagined. So if you imagine yourself failing, getting into a worse relationship, not being a good manager, whatever it might be, moving to a city that you hate, if you imagine that, the brain doesn't know you're imagining that, so it makes you feel the same way as if it was actually happening. And that creates anxiety in the body. Now, here's why this is happening, okay? Why would we create this story that's so negative that creates anxiety for us? Well, it's really kind of simple. Now, it's obviously not easy to overcome, but I'm going to help you with this. But if you can understand it, because understanding is the first law of learning, you've got to understand this, okay? Then you'll be able to overcome it. So our brain, at least our old brain, right, what some people call it the reptilian brain or the amygdala, our old brain, which has been around for millions of years, okay, that's still the same brain, okay? And its main primary function is to keep you alive. Now, it does other things, obviously, but it's really it tries to keep you alive and avoid any threat. Now, when we were primitive, everything was a threat, right? So your brain had to be wrong once and you were dead. So for instance, you're out going to hunt for food when you were primitive and you hear some rustling in the bush, right? And it could be something that you could eat, or it could be something that could eat you. Well, your brain, that part of your brain, is trying to keep you alive and avoid any danger, any threat. So it's going to default to avoiding it and have you run off or freeze or get out of there, okay? Because all you have to be is wrong once and you're dead. So unless you're certain that it's food, you're probably not going to go into the bush. You're going to run. Now, I know that today it's much different, right? We have our new brain that's sort of been bolted on through evolution. It's called our prefrontal cortex. So picture your old brain being your fist and your new brain being this prefrontal cortex is sitting on top. This brain's logical. It thinks, it reasons, it's rational. It could tell you that whatever you're thinking about isn't really a threat that could kill you, okay? Like taking a new job or moving to a new city isn't going to kill you, but this brain is powerful. It's stronger and faster. And what it typically does is it knocks this brain offline when you're in a situation that might seem threatening. And so this brain is now in control again, and your logical brain is not. And that's why it's not logical to think that I would die if I did this, okay? And you're not really logically thinking that, but this part of your brain saying, if you take this risk where there's so much uncertainty, you could die, and I need to protect you from that. I need to protect you from that because that new city could kill you. Now, you know it can't, but this brain doesn't. This brain's not smart enough to know the difference between a real threat and a perceived threat. So it thinks you're going to die. If you take that job and you fail at that job, it thinks you're going to die. It's protecting you. It's protecting your life. And so since it doesn't know the difference between what's a real threat and a perceived threat, everything that's threatening, it wants you to avoid. Now, that's good in many cases. If you stepped off of a curb and a bus was about to hit you, you want this brain to activate your body to jump off the curb. Or if somebody was really attacking you or in the woods and a bear was coming at you, this brain is going to try to help you survive. But when it comes to the things in our life that could make us better and change our life for the better, these major changes in our life that we tend to be so afraid of and we tend to resist, we don't want this brain in control. We want this brain back online, thinking, reasoning, being rational, and moving us towards our goal. Because this brain wants to pursue, this brain wants to avoid. And if you're living in avoidance, you'll never live the life that you want. If you're living your life avoiding danger, avoiding risk, avoiding adversity, you'll never live the life that you truly deserve to live. But if you activate this part of your brain, the logical reasoning brain, and you tell this brain, knock it off, this isn't going to kill me. If you're able to keep this brain online and say, don't worry, I've got this, then you begin to live the life that you want. So let me explain how this works. So when there's uncertainty and there's this gap, then we typically, many of us, will fill it with a story, like I said, that really is catastrophic, a story of failure. And the reason why we're doing this, okay, is because if we can create a lot of anxiety, if this part of our brain can create enough anxiety, all we want to do is get rid of the anxiety. If you've ever been anxious, okay, you know that you give anything to get rid of this anxiety. And what's the easiest way to get rid of anxiety if you're thinking about changing something, like, let's say, taking that new job or going on a date with a new person or whatever it might be, and you have all this anxiety? What's the easiest way to get rid of that anxiety? Well, the easiest way is to not do it, avoid. And as soon as you avoid it, the anxiety goes away. But what did that do to your self-determination? What did that do to your self-image or self-esteem? It completely crushed it. And this is why I say we live a life of mediocrity. We don't live our best life if we don't take those chances, because win or lose, you would have grown from that. But because you didn't do it, you're not growing, therefore you're dying. I don't mean that physiologically, but you're dying inside. You're creating a lower self-image. And then that makes it harder for you to do other things, because now your self-image has been lowered, your self-esteem has been lowered, and it doesn't give you the courage and the confidence to go do the next thing that you want to do, and we continue to spiral down. So think about this for a moment. Since this is just a story and it isn't even true, who has control over the story? You do. You're creating the story that's creating the anxiety, so you can create a story that doesn't create anxiety, or don't create a story and just let the uncertainty unfold, right? Rather than living in the future and creating a story about the future that your brain doesn't like, right? Because it's really a negative story. Rather than doing that, why don't you just be in the present and start moving towards where you're going and let the uncertainty unfold and manage it as it's unfolding. You'll see that more often than not, it's not as bad as you thought. So let me share an illustration with you. I've shared this illustration in other videos, but I'm going to share it with you from a different point of view, if you will, okay, that hopefully will help you understand this concept, okay? So just allow this circle here to represent your mind, okay? And this circle represents your body. Most people understand the mind-body connection, right? I think about something in my mind. I thought about my wife, and you can see that because I see her in my mind, it's manifesting through my body in a smile. I feel loved, I feel warm, right? So that is the mind-body connection, okay? Now the mind is split up into two parts. So we have our conscious and subconscious. We think at the conscious level. You're doing that right now. This is where our stories are. And then we feel that story at the subconscious level. So when we're considering change, so we're going to put up here as a thought, change. We start to think about change. Because of the uncertainty of the outcome, we begin to worry about that change. Okay, so we're worried. I'm going to put a W here for worry about the change. That worry manifests into a feeling we're going to call fear. So I'm going to put an F there. So worry and fear. Okay. So when there's worry and fear in the mind, okay, it will manifest through the body in anxiety, okay? So the anxiety is real in the body, right? Because The brain isn't smart enough to know that your story isn't true, right? It doesn't know the story isn't true. You can think about anything in your mind and it'll activate your body, right? Think about anything right now. Think about laying on a beach and, the sun's warm on your face. You can almost feel the warmth of the sun. The brain doesn't know that what you're imagining isn't true. It actually even releases chemicals in your body that would be the same chemicals that would be released in the situation that you're in. That's why you can be laying in bed thinking about something tossing and turning and, something that worries you, and you have all this anxiety in your body, even though you're in your bed. So the anxiety is real, but the story you've created that's caused this worry because of uncertainty is not true, but it's true to your brain. So when you have worry and fear in the mind and anxiety in the body, this is where a resistance barrier comes up. Okay, so we come up against this resistance barrier. Now, even though logically we know on the other side is a better place, better relationship, better city, better job, more money, better health, even though logically we know that, our old brain says, I'm not sure about that. There's uncertainty, just like the rustling in the bush. And I need to avoid that because the old brain thinks it could be so dangerous it will kill you. And so you start to increase your anxiety by actually adding to the story. What if I lose all my money and I'm homeless? What if this doesn't work? And we start to really conjure up a real big story as we're resisting this, because we're resisting it because we want the anxiety to go away. The easiest way to get rid of the anxiety is to say, I'm not doing it. I'm avoiding it. And as soon as you say, I'm not doing it anymore, what happens to the worry? It goes away. What happens to the fear? It goes away. And what happens to the anxiety? It goes away too. I feel so much better for a moment. And then what happens? You feel pretty badly about yourself. You've lowered your self-esteem. You've lowered your self-image. Your version of yourself has been lowered. If you had gone through, you grew, because all growth happens outside of the comfort zone. This is your comfort zone. See, you're comfortable here. You don't want to really be here. You want to be there, but it's comfortable here. Even if the relationship stinks, at least you know what it is. And so you're comfortable. And even if you don't really like your job or your manager, it's comfortable. Okay, at least I know what I'm getting. And so I don't have as much anxiety now because I'm not going there. I've resisted it. But I'm now in my comfort zone, and no growth happens inside the comfort zone. All growth happens outside of the comfort zone. So the goal here for you is to recognize that you created the story that created the anxiety, that created the resistance. And you can create a story that creates a, well-being, a story of hope, a logical story that it could work out. What if it does, right? How beautiful would that be? A story of hope or faith, which creates not anxiety, but well-being in the body. And then if there's well-being, there's no resistance. And if there's no resistance, we cross through, and now we're here. Now, that doesn't mean you're not going to bring some worry with you, some fear with you, and some anxiety with you. It's new, but at least it's actually happening, because here it's not really happening. So the anxiety is real, but it's coming from an unreal place. Here, at least if you have some anxiety because you're in the new city, you're in the new relationship, you're in the new job, at least it's coming from a real place. But you know this. Eventually, what happens to the worry, fear, and anxiety? You know this, it's happened to you before. It dissipates. No more worry, no more fear, no more anxiety. And this you outgrew this you. This you stepped out. This you that didn't cross through that threshold, right? That resistance barrier. It died, okay? I don't mean that physiologically, but inside, you're dying inside. Why can't I do this? Why don't I have the courage? What's wrong with me? Where this you says, you know what, I did it. I did it. Now you've outgrown this you. This you has outgrown this you because you left your comfort zone. Now you're over here. The worry, fear, and anxiety is dissipated. You're living better life, whatever that is here. Better life, right? Whatever that is. But now, since there's no more worry, fear, and anxiety, this is your new what? It's your new comfort zone. So what do you need to do to continue to grow? You need to expose yourself to some more uncertainty, right? And create some more worry, fear, and anxiety, which creates a little bit more resistance, and you still go through, right? And now you're on this side. I know that I ran out of room, so it's smaller, but this you outgrew this you, which outgrew this you. You can see where this is personal and professional growth. This is human growth. Every time we push through the anxiety and we get to the other side, where there's uncertainty, and we realize that the uncertainty really isn't all that bad. It doesn't always work out, but even if it didn't work out, you grew, where if you didn't do it, you don't grow. You grow either way, whether it works or it doesn't work. Does that make sense? And then you start to begin a life that increases your self-worth, increases your self-esteem. You begin to live a life that's the life that you deserve rather than the life that you're afraid of living. So stop avoiding and start pursuing by understanding how your brain works. If this is helpful for you, right, take action right away. If you think it could help somebody else, make sure you share this video. If you like the video, make sure you like it, and please subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching.